Samford 42-14. Samford is led by Michael Hires. He's a Southern Conference Player of the Week after throwing for 289 yards and 4 touchdowns in a win over top 10 Kennesaw State last week. Old friend Chris Hatcher against his buddy Kirby Smart today here at Sanford Stadium. Hires, everybody covered up, swings it out to Jay Stanton. Stanton gets back up to the 24. It's actually going to be a loss of a yard on the play. Smile Munden on the tackle. Stinch, how we feeling over there? You sweating any?
I got a little cardio in today, pal. This stadium has not gotten any smaller.
What a great opening from you out in front of that tunnel. Straight ahead, Stanton runs at the Dawgs for a couple of yards up to the 26. It's 3rd and 9. This Georgia defense tries to force a 3 and out.
Yeah, and the challenge here, and we talked to Chris Hatcher about this, is protection. So you want to make sure you don't make a bad mistake right here. If there's nothing there, tuck it and run, punt the football away.
Look at 88 at the bottom of your screen. They swing it back out to Stanton. Stanton on a lateral goes up to the 28-yard line. It'll be 4th down and 7 from there, and Samford's punting team will come onto the field. Bradley Porcelato, graduate from Melbourne, Australia, will punt it deep to Lad McConkey. Solato's in trouble. He barely got that off. Maybe a dog might have gotten a piece of that. And McConkey, a fair catch at the 44-yard line.
There's no question the Dawgs came after that punt, and it really is surprising they actually didn't get a piece of it. They must have. Solano got knocked over his tea kettle there towards the end. Just quick 3 and out by that defense.
Just a 28-yard punt. Stench is Stetson Bennett, the 6th-year graduate player from Blackshear, Georgia, lifelong Georgia fan. There he is in 2014. Always wanted to be a dog. Left, went to Jones Community College, came back. Now a 3-year starter. A guy that's destined to have his name all over this city for the rest of his life. He swings it out to A.D. Mitchell and will get just a few. Last week was the best game of his career, statistically, Stinch. After all that he did last year in winning a national championship, throws for a career-high 368 yards.
And somewhat indicative of what they expect from this offense, as you see A.D. Mitchell coming up a little bit gimpy off of that now screen. Keep an eye on his status after one play.
He's dealt with injuries throughout his career. It's a 4-yard pickup. This is Kenny McIntosh. McIntosh, the leading receiver last week for Georgia out of the backfield. Gets up to the 50, and Kirby Smart must have said it 10 times in the meeting yesterday with us, Stinch. Established the ground game today.
Yeah, Todd Monken as well. You know, they pointed out last week versus Oregon, they anticipated some things from Dan Lanning and his defense, and so they attacked the perimeter. They want to see if they can get downhill in the running game. Not a great 1st and 2nd down to set up this 3rd.
They were 8 of 8 on 3rd down when Stetson Bennett was in the game last week. 9 of 10 overall. A little pass across the middle and in stride. It is caught by Jackson Meeks, his first catch of the season. 1st down, Georgia.
Well, we talked with Stetson Bennett about the passing game. Well, the challenge has been health at wide receiver. They run very deep.
Fakes the swing, wants to throw it deep. Meeks is open, and it's just barely overthrown. 2nd down.
Stetson Bennett standing on about the minus 45-yard line. He knows that he just missed one downfield. And one of the things that he's done an excellent job with his deep ball. And you can see there Jackson Meeks did behind the coverage an opportunity, but about 5 yards. Too much juice on that football. Juicy get plus territory, taking a shot early in this game.
A.D. Mitchell's already in the tent, by the way, Stench. As you said, he came off limping. Kendall Milton gets inside the 40 down to the 38 where Ty Hardiman makes the tackle. Milton over 500 career rushing yards, and once again, as was discussed by our friends Sean McDonough and Todd Blackledge last week, you got to replace Zamir White and James Cook. This year it's Milton, McIntosh, and Dejon Edwards.
And there was an interesting element that Todd Monken pointed out. Last year they had two James Cook types. The other was Kenny McIntosh. And so this year they have a more focused in the passing game on number 6, who's in there now.
And of course would be McIntosh, the senior from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on this 3rd and 5. Bennett moving the pocket to the sideline, and that's a perfect ball to Marcus Rosemy-Jack-Saint, 11 yards and another Georgia first down.
Now going back to what we were saying earlier about the passing game, Stetson Bennett, we said, what is it about these receivers? He says, I feel like I know what they're going to be doing. You see Rosemy-Jack-Saint catches it right there along the sideline. It's a little help from the guys there in the on the boundary. But the idea is, hey, I feel as if I can anticipate what these receivers are doing because of the time they've had together.
And great protection up front on that last play. McIntosh follows the right side of the line. Tate Ratledge, of course, the right guard that was hurt in that Clemson game to start the season. Warren McClendon is over there at right tackle. You're looking at the left tackle, Broderick Jones. There's a couple of battles going on up front right now, Stinch, for playing time.
Yeah, they feel as if they roll about 7 or 8 deep. You know, those 3 tackles, they're saying all these guys can play and deserve to play. We fully expect to see some rotation on the edge and at guard.
Dejon Edwards in the game for the first time on 2nd and 7. Throw right to him, wide open on the swing pass. First down, Georgia, inside the 15.
Dejon Edwards, as you pointed out, in the past, we've seen him come in and literally end games. They just feed him, turn him into a 9-on-7 drill. And now he's getting some early looks and early reps, showing great hands that time out of the backfield.
Georgia was 7 of 7 scoring touchdowns in the red zone last week. And McConkey got a hand on it, but couldn't grab it. 2nd down.
Well, McConkey was one of those guys Stetson Bennett was talking about, where literally said, I see it the way he sees it. If I were to play wide receiver, I see the defense the way Ladd McConkey sees it. And that is expanding to his fellow wide receivers. A lot of guys where they build that rapport.
Touchdown running, touchdown receiving last week for McConkey as Milton is back in. Swing it to Kendall, looking for blocking. Patient, gets all the way up to the 5-yard line, where it'll be 3rd and goal from there. Joseph Mira makes the tackle.
It's just so challenging. I mean, look at Darnell Washington. That's basically a tackle that's pulling out in space. 275. I'm going to give him 280 pounds if he's an ounce. And, of course, you've already got Brock Bowers, who is a tight end body that can play at receiver, and already 5 different wide receivers having touched the ball in this game.
Yes, the 11th play of the drive. They're already 2 for 2 on 3rd down, 11 for 12 on the season, trying to convert another. They go to the ground game, and this one's going to be stopped in the backfield. McIntosh game tackled Isaiah Richardson there first.
Excellent job by Isaiah Richardson. He diagnosed quickly and was downfield. You can see on 4th down, no hesitancy. Georgia going for it in the low red zone.
Need to get inside the 2. Snap count. See if they're just trying to draw them off.
And we saw this in Thursday in practice, where they did this, and it was a dummy cadence, like it was a freeze cadence, and then they ran a play.
Play clock has expired.
And you hear the fans, they felt like they were teased right there. 4th down, go for it. Instead, they're going to go ahead and take the points. You see a couple of the early downs, trying to get the run game going a little bit. Hasn't seen a ton of running space early between the tackles.
Bennett stays on the field to be the holder for Jack Podlesny, the 3rd-year starter. Some may have a hard time believing the backs coach for Valdosta State when Chris Hatcher was the head coach there, and the defensive coordinator for Coach Hatch that year was Will Muschamp, who of course is back at UGA as the co-defensive coordinator this year. Before the game, Hatch is talking to Will, telling stories. Hatch pulled a terrible prank on Muschamp one year during recruiting. He got the fax machine to not all of a sudden not work. Muschamp's expecting fax from a recruit, and let's just say Coach Boom had a Coach Boom moment. Hires flips it out there in front to Kendall Watson, who had a terrific game last week with 9 catches. Half of the catches that Samford had as a team, and he gets 10 yards here.
Nice play there. Good job by Watson getting his foot in the ground and get upfield quickly.
10-yard pickup. Hires going to keep it himself, and he's going to pick up a yard on what looked like a busted play. We're talking about that Valdosta State coaching staff. There's Hatch as the head coach in the background. Kirby is the defensive backs coach, and Muschamp as the defensive coordinator. Of course, Chris would go on to win a national championship with Valdosta State. Hires in trouble, feeling the pressure, and he overthrows his intended receiver, Judd Cockett, but big number 88, Jalen Carter, was all over him.
Georgia does a great job with this blitz. It's a cross dog. The 2 inside linebackers, they exchange their blitzes. They cross. It confuses the protection, and that time Dumas Johnson able to come clean and got a shot on Hires.
He had a big game last week as a first-year starter, and here come the Dogs again. Hires somehow gets out of there, fumbles the ball, and Georgia's on top of it. Hires trying to make something out of nothing, and Georgia player got his hand on it. Here, Dan Jackson was the one that forced the fumble, and Xavier Sori is the one that recovered it.
The ball come out. They're going to see a lot of this year. The defense is still an attacking defense. It's a great shot. Put your helmet right on the football. And Jackson, reminiscent of a N'Kobe Dean type play from his safety position down there, put his helmet right on the ball. Really costly turnover because of the field position, forfeited on what was likely a promising start to that offensive possession.
So it gives Georgia a short field at Samford's 41. This is still a little toss ahead to McIntosh, and he's got space in front, and he's tripped up down inside the 15-yard line. It is a pickup of 31.
A toss into the boundary. You've been watching Georgia football. If you've seen this a time or two, Kenny McIntosh one-on-one with the safety as the alley player. All you got to do is make one man miss. It was very well blocked at the point of attack.
Just like that, Georgia's right back on the doorstep again, down at the Samford 11. Now to Milton. Kendall patiently waiting for space. Gets to the 8. How about the weapons that Milton and McIntosh are in the backfield? Zamir White was the guy that primarily ran it last year, and James Cook did everything. Milton and McIntosh with similar roles this season.
No question. And they talked about it. You know, Milton, a little bit bigger player, a little bit more downhill. He was slowed this fall camp with a hamstring injury. They said he was protecting it a little bit a week ago still, and you could see it in his runs. Looks like he's fully healthy here today.
Pick up a 4 as McIntosh stands next to Stetson. Back at the 13-yard line. Bennett wants to go the end zone. Bowers can't make the grab. Good coverage there by Wade White.
It's interesting. We've seen Bowers make a catch like this before, reminiscent of his catch in the Orange Bowl. Goes up, pirouettes in the air, almost comes down with it. That's 3 times now. One was an overthrow, 2 others right off the outstretched hands of the intended receiver.
Georgia has 3 receivers at the bottom of the screen. At the very bottom, Dylan Bell, the true freshman that Todd Monken's been raving about. Bennett looks the other way. Darnell Washington can't make the grab, and if he can't, nobody can. 4th down.
Darnell Washington is 6'7", they say. I'm going to round that up to 6'8". And right here, you're giving him a chance. You throw it at the crossbar. Let him go up and make a play, because he was covered working on an inside route, singled up on the outside. Just such a huge target, and that time outstripped even his catch reads.
As great as Georgia was in the red zone last week, 2 field goal tries so far in the red zone this week, and Podlesny cashes in on both of them. Complete defensive lineman that he has had at Georgia. He said he had a couple at Alabama, but none like him here. He might be the #1 pick of the draft by the time the season is over with. Samford starts at the 25-yard line, and big number 88 isn't coming onto the field just yet, but he is an every down player, unlike some other interior defensive linemen that have starred at Georgia.
Yeah, you talk about like a Jordan Davis last year where he was battling his size most of his career here in Athens, but still dominant. Jalen Carter's a guy, you put him in on first down, you leave him in on third down. He's an excellent pass rusher, gets quick penetration.
Myers, after the fumble, swings it out there near the 30-yard line to Chandler Smith again, the senior from Marietta playing back in his home state. 4-yard pickup.
Early downs, Chris Hatcher doing a great job of moving the pocket, getting the ball out quickly. Be productive on that first down.
Swings it out again, this time to Stanton. Stanton dives to the Samford bench. Tyke Smith on the tackle will be 3rd and short.
Demonstrating some depth. Once again, Georgia has defensively new faces, sure. Tyke Smith, a guy that they didn't even have
in the running game today. What does that mean, Stan?
Well, he wants to see some finish, right? It's not just the initial contact. He wants to see you run your feet and finish those blocks. They lack that a little bit versus Oregon. Wants to see more of that now in the 3rd series, much like last Saturday, and Marius Mims in there at right tackle for Warren McClendon.
John Edwards, a fake to him. Bennett doesn't like what he sees. He's getting incredible protection, and McConkey gets open inside the 30.
Just debilitating type plays because there's nothing open downfield. You rush 3, get a decent pressure, and Seth Simmer right in the middle. And Stetson Bennett just slides to his right and throws a strike.
Boy, did he. The next play with flags all over the field, he's looking down for Meeks. 37-yard completion on the play before. This is Wayne Winkler, today's referee.
Legal substitution. The defense had more than 11 players on the field at the snap. 5-yard penalty, first down.
So Georgia going so fast, and Samford's not able to get off of the field. Take a look at the upper right of your screen. Upper right. Yeah, you see him just barely trying to get off, and he couldn't. So now that was a free play to give Georgia the ball at the 23-yard line. This is Edwards, and he's down to the 20.
You see the offensive line coach, Stacy Searles. That's the strain that he's talking about. You got to clean up just that one last hitter so that you can get a clean insertion into the line of scrimmage. Big Broderick Jones, a guy that was substituted in, got a lot of starts, got a couple of good reps, early meaningful snaps last year when Jamari Salyer got injured, came in that championship game, played really well versus one of the best pass rushers in the game, Will Anderson Jr.
2nd and 2 for Bennett. See if he takes a shot here. Stetson keeps it himself. Taking on defender Seth Simmer, got a hit on him right at the marker.
Big Thomas Neville as well. They've been very active at inside linebacker. That gives you a little bit of pause. Stetson Bennett came in there, was not sliding. Just a good shot from Thomas Neville. Clean hit, big hit.
3rd and 1. 2 for 2 with 2 field goals after 7 touchdowns in 7 possessions last week. 3rd and less than a foot.
Cushion in the slide.
And it's an easy first down run for Milton. There's the strain you're talking about. Getting some help from his offensive line. Down to the 11.
Great job at left guard, Xavier Truss and Cedric Van Pram. Clean into the line of scrimmage, untouched. That's a great job up front and in the trenches, and that's what they're talking about with strain. There's no position blocking on an inside run on a short yardage play.
Fresh set of downs from the 11-yard line. And a toss going to Milton. Kendall breaking tackles, keeping his feet up near the 3.
It's interesting on those plays. When they're already committed to running on the outside, they almost forfeit the interior defensive lineman and release to get downfield. So far this season, this is something that came up in our meetings the other day. The perimeter blocking, the downfield blocking. Even Stetson Bennett's out there talking about it. That's where you get your explosive run plays, is when you've got your perimeter players blocking the way that they have.
Milton again next to Bennett. It's Stetson himself. Touchdown, Georgia. Two touchdown passes and a touchdown run last week for Stetson, and another this week. Some wondered if this guy deserved a scholarship a few years ago. He's going to go down as one of the greatest dogs ever. Podlesny makes it 13-0. 11 passes, 11 runs so far for Georgia. They are 10 for 10 in the red zone this season.
Talk about how they've gotten to the perimeter. Darnell Washington, that big body, a de facto tackle in space. So he's on the left side of the line of scrimmage. Watch it come all the way across. Now he's the escort. Seal the end man, quarterback. The inside defender is yours. Get some speed. Make it all the way to the edge. Stetson Bennett showing once again, they covet his ability to make plays with his legs.
Great blocking by Washington. I would argue maybe tight end type blocking, not Stinchcomb tackle type blocking.
I don't know, that guy, get him a couple of biscuits. He's playing offensive line at the next level. Stick around at tight end here, of course. They move him a lot. That's one of the things they talked about. This guy's been injured quite a bit. He's just now getting healthy, and it's his stamina. And they move him so much, and he's out in space and running routes at 280 pounds. Where's that big horse down?
Hard to believe he only has 18 career catches. Samford will get it at the 25. Coming up at 7 Eastern, 6 Central over on S. That impressive last week for Ole Miss throwing the football. Luke Altmaier might have a shot to win that job tonight.
No question. Yeah, it's one of the things, got to protect the football better. Did not make many big plays in that game.
Myers doesn't get
Ball's
anything.
out.
Zion Logue forced the fumble, and somehow Samford got it off the carom.
You know this conversation's already been had. You got to talk to Hires and say, look, we're already trying to sled uphill in this ball game. We cannot afford short fields. The defense for Samford's done an excellent job forcing 2 field goals.
This is the end of the first
But they have
quarter.
to be better about protecting this football.
It's the end of the first quarter. Hires lucky to have his football team still on the field on offense. Georgia back in Athens for the first time since the middle of November last year. Up 13-0, causing turnovers at Sanford Stadium. Offense on a 2nd and 3. Flags on the field as Jalen Thomas makes the first down catch. Matt Stinchcomb and Alyssa Lang. I'm Taylor Zarzer, proud to be back in Athens today.
Replay second down.
Got a holding on the offensive line. Was otherwise a really good blitz pickup by the Samford up front. Michael Williams, who was lined up on the line of scrimmage, he read this back out of the backfield, flexed out into space, was able to make that play.
You don't want to compare him to anybody, but he looks like a first-round draft pick with the way he's built. Judd Puckett makes the catch, but Dawgs are all over him.
Robert Beal, I mean, we talk about guys that are able to put their hand in the dirt and then go play in space. Robert Beal, they know, this defensive front knows, offenses aren't going to hold the ball versus them. The ball's going to come out. So they are wisely reading the quarterback. They're getting out there making plays in the flats.
3rd and 10. Myers completes it to Ty King, but short of the first down. Tyke Smith wrapped him up.
Tyke Smith, what they're trying to do is get him kind of caught up in traffic. Tyke Smith did a good job of tracking him all the way to the edge.
So Samford's going to have to punt for the 3rd time. Also had a lost fumble in the 1st quarter. Ladd McConkey is standing back there deep for a touchdown run and a touchdown catch over in Atlanta last week. A fair catch here at the 28-yard line. Stetson Bennett, Ladd McConkey in the
end zone from a yard out. Now the highlight you're going to remember if you see it is going to be Gavin Bartholomew just a bit later from Keaton Slovis. Watch Bartholomew go high and over the Tennessee defender. Tennessee just responded with a Brew McCoy touchdown. His first. It's a 3-point hit lead.
Darnell Washington, eat your heart out.
Took 3 steps. Oh, they called it, Dari.
He stuck the landing and kept running.
The Johnny Majors Classic going on up there in Pittsburgh, PA. Dylan Bell makes his first catch as a Georgia Bulldog, the freshman from Houston. Here's that Darnell Washington hurdle. Look at this. Craziness over an Oregon defender. 6'8", 280, and can do this.
Business decision. Go low, man. Go low and hope it works out.
Stetson Bennett's already found 8 different receivers, and he hasn't found Darnell Washington yet. Here's Kearis Jackson out in the free and clear, and he gets a first down. It's a pickup of 16 yards. Wondering if Jackson has that burst yet. There's a sign.
Definitely see it there. Great job by Ladd McConkey. He's sticking with it. He got spun all the way around that man. And the rotation up front continues. Amarius Mims still in there at right tackle. Broderick Jones out. Warren McClendon in at left tackle. Now Devin Willock in at left guard.
53rd career catch for Kearis. This is Milton inside the 45 and just about a yard and a half shy of another first down.
Good job at the left side of the line. Vincent McClendon being over there. Willock, 2 new faces, not their usual position. They do a good job of capturing the edge. Look at Willock climb up. Get to the edge easily.
Milton with a first down run over to the Samford bench.
How about Georgia messing with the tempo? They did this a little bit versus Oregon. We're over here trying to cram in replays, and they want to get over the football. You don't really know. They don't stay on the gas all the time. They'll stand on the gas some, they'll come off it, they're a little bit more methodical, and then they can go hyper fast as well.
And also sub in running backs play by play as all of this is going on. Milton out, McIntosh in. Stay loose, Dejan. Be you next.
That's right.
Milk the play clock here, down inside of 2 seconds. Bennett play action. Doesn't like what he sees. He improv'd against the Ducks last week, it worked. And he makes something out of nothing here to McIntosh down to the 32.
Something out of nothing, but still something. Didn't try to force it downfield, kind of slid into that rush a little bit. That time Thomas Neville off the edge, and he slid to his left where Neville was coming if he just kind of sits in there for one more second.
Fran Tarkenton have a smile on his face somewhere watching this new age Georgia Bulldog scramble all over the field last week in the Dome and this week here. Stetson Bennett dumps it off to McIntosh, breaking a tackle, first down. Emmanuel Flowers forces him out, but not before Kenny gets 11 more.
I know we've mentioned him before. Darnell Washington in pass protection now. He's big and physical, coming across that line of scrimmage.
McIntosh has 12 catches already on the season as Jackson Meeks makes another grab. Nice turn and run, too, near another first down.
Jackson Meeks in there getting some more touches and looks. Largely owing would have to be the fact that A.D. Mitchell, who Stetson Bennett says probably the twitchiest guy we've got on this roster, he lasted one play in this game before he went out with an ankle injury.
There's Washington coming in on the right side of your screen. Dejon Edwards is in front of Washington, and here's Dejon following Darnell inside the 5, down near the 3.
It's just a mass of humanity, and it's just unfolding. It's like an avalanche. You've got those big bodies already to the right side of the formation. And then you're going to get some pins and pulls. You get an outside lineman or an adjacent tight end to block down. And then that inside lineman, he's able to pull outside and lead upfield. And all those bodies on smaller bodies in space. I'm not great at physics, but I don't think that's fair necessarily.
2nd and 4 for the Dogs on the doorstep. Fake to Dejon, over the top. Touchdown, Dylan Bell.
Again, we talked a lot going into the week about the motivation for this defensive unit. I was told that after the Oregon game a week ago, these guys were going back into the locker rooms going, yeah, what questions were y'all asking about being able to replace us with NFL talent with the dominating performance that they put on against the Ducks a week ago. Chris Smith talked to us about how they've maintained that motivation. He said Coach Smart talked a lot about how last year doesn't do anything for us this year, told stories about teams that he's been on or teams that he's seen that have won championships and then gotten complacent the next season. Of course, everybody knows Kirby Smart does a really good job of communicating that they are still the hunters, not the hunted. Chris said it fires me the heck up every single time, guys.
It's a hell of a report there, Alyssa, because it, I think, speaks to what the identity of this Georgia team is in 2022, what they're trying to discover about these players. Kirby Smart says you have to coach each of them differently. Some may be comfortable with coming off a national championship, but the ones you just talked about are hungry. Ayers airs it out, but over the head of DJ Reyes, a former Alabama receiver. It's 2nd down. Now, as much as you're coaching every player differently, Kirby Smart also said, Stench, we haven't had any adversity yet.
Yeah.
Told Alyssa that before the game today. We're going to run into some at some point. Alabama certainly ran into some today. When is Georgia going to face that in 2022 is the question, as Jay Stanton doesn't get much.
I'll tell you a surefire thing. They're going to face adversity in practice. We witnessed that firsthand. This coaching staff's going to try to find ways to create adverse circumstances for this team to perform in during the week. Make it hard. That's the whole goal. So by the time you get to game day, it's the easiest day of the week. Kirby Smart has a PA system. He is in there coaching every single play.
3rd and 9, and Georgia's all over this one. It was Jalen Carter in the backfield. You just can't do much with 88.
This time he's standing up. They've got him almost as a stand-up rush in.
Really on the
He's
field.
over a guard. He's just so versatile. A guy that can flex. He can play inside. He can play outside. He just works right inside. You can see right guard. Luke Burns is thinking he's got help from his center. You see him look right away. Hey, man, where are you? Don't leave me on an island with this guy.
It's kind of hard to believe he's only started a few games in his collegiate career.
It's reminiscent of some of the great linemen that we saw out of Tuscaloosa, ones that Kirby Smart coaches.
Jonathan Allen, he referenced.
Marcel Darius.
Yep. Bradley Porcelato is on the field for the 4th time, and the Aussie punter sends it down there to McConkey. He makes the grab at the 36. Kirby Smart said, "Be ready to run with it, lad." Here he goes inside Samford territory. Georgia all over the Samford Bulldogs.
People on the staff there at Georgia say he's run a laser 4 or 5 times, so he's going to run well in the spring as well. So I think the narrative starts to shift a little bit right now coming out of that week 1 performance. Stetson Bennett is a legitimate pro prospect and not just a good feel-good story.
Helps when you got a guy like Big Brock Bowers go up the ladder for 18 more.
Right on cue, right? How about a report on Brock Bowers? He's got 1 more year before he's eligible. But you could see what they were talking about. Todd Monken said, look, right now, our best slot receiver is Brock Bowers. That is a huge statement when you've got a talent like Akirus Jackson on this roster.
Inside the 30-yard line, down to the 26. Bennett back to the air. That's the 11th different receiver he's found today. That's Darnell Washington. There's a flag down.
I tell you, Taylor, this is a luxury for Georgia. They live in 12 personnel. There are 2 tight ends from a personnel standpoint on the field almost all the time. And it's because they can flex number 19 out so easily. They did it with Darnell as well.
After the play was over, personal foul, unnecessary roughness, defense, number 98. Half the distance to the goal and an automatic first down.
Joshua Mathiasen with the penalty for Samford. Bennett, of course, the Walter Camp National Player of the Week for his performance last week. Said last year everyone rightfully mentioned our defense. We want an identity that everybody talks about all over the country this year on offense.
You could tell that they felt as if they could contribute more last year, and they certainly want to lead the charge this year.
Fake to McIntosh, and Bowers takes the toss down to the 8. There's another flag.
Double pass complete to Brock Bowers. Picked up a couple and checked the flag.
Holding, offense number 73. 10-yard penalty, replay first down.
That goes on Xavier Truss. They'll back him up. Alyssa?
Yeah, guys, I think I can speak for all of us when I say that we were so impressed in our meeting with Stetson Bennett yesterday. One of the questions that I asked him was, what have you learned about yourself in your entire collegiate career from where you started to where you are now, the last season and a half here at Georgia? And he took a long pause and he said, I've been keeping busy. This building's a really good buffer in dealing with the noise. He used a Winston Churchill quote that he said he keeps going back to. That quote being, to improve is to change, to be perfect is to change often. He said, I thought I used to play football for other people. Turns out I love it for myself.
John Edwards gets down to the 15. And the other thing that he told you, Alyssa, is that he keeps this notebook where he writes all these different notes down about his experiences playing football. And Stinchie told Alyssa that he drew out every scenario you can have on a 100-yard field in football. Meaning, and what he learned by that was, I don't have to get all of it at once. I can get 2 yards here, 5 yards here, 3 yards there. He's learning that to be a little bit more patient with the football in 2022. This is 2nd and 15 for Stetson. Across the middle, good pass to McIntosh. Down to the 8, and he gets some of it, not all of it, setting up a 3rd down.
He's talking about that some, where the defense only has 11 players. He's like, I know that's an obvious statement, but the point also was, you start to see shapes. You start to see the way the field and the game will unfold based on if they bring pressure from one side, then they're going to be inefficient somewhere else. It's a really tightly strung economy. You can't borrow from one spot without compromising another.
10 straight completions for Stetson, setting up this 3rd and 8. He's patient, throws to the back corner, and Bell cannot make the grab. 4th down.
Many incompletions in this game, but we've seen a couple in the end zone, incidentally. That's well defended. hand up. Great job by Fred Flowers of breaking up that would-be pass.
So if Jack Podlesny makes this 26-yard field goal, he'll have the #1 field goal percentage in the history of Georgia football, passing Rodrigo Blankenship. Right through there. Dog fans all over this place. 59th straight sellout, dating back to 2012. The record is 64, and they're going to break that. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, at the end of this season against Georgia Tech, they're going to break that. And yeah, as we said in the open, almost 15,000 days since the last time they played a home opener as the defending national champion. So it's time to celebrate where this program is currently. Hires is too high into the Samford bench.
I have to imagine that amount of times played a role in the fact that people were willing to brave the would-be weather that isn't. You see the new national championship reference 2021, long time coming.
Jalen Thomas past the 40-yard line. They'll pick up a 5. I think the key now, kind of like what Kirby Smart learned at Alabama stint, is the idea isn't to get one of those. It's to get a bunch of them in the next 10, 15 years. Put your program in position to compete for those on an annual basis.
No question, that is the measuring stick. You see Samford, there's a check with me, looking over to the sidelines. Coach is controlling this next snap.
Catcher changes the formation at the last moment. Here comes the pressure. Good job by Hires to get it out. Ty King makes the completion, but he is short of the first.
Jalen Carter once again with the pressure. Now he's just beating a double team and splits the double team.
On 4th down, it's incomplete. Javon Bullard almost had the pick.
Samford rolling the dice near midfield, trying to jam one in there. Great job. Quick trigger by Javon Bullard to break up that pass attempt. Earlier, we're looking at the average starting field position for the Georgia offense. It was their own 41. Now they get the ball on the plus side of the field. Now it's their own 44 average start.
Here goes McConkey. Bennett will hand it off to Milton, and Kendall will get to the 40-yard line. Hard to believe that Kendall had hamstring issues in August. He looks fresh here in September. 50 yards rushing and a touchdown last week, and also a touchdown catch.
That's a great point. Yeah, he has. He's looked good, especially when he's been able to get loose. He doesn't look nearly as guarded as he did in week 1 versus Oregon. That's a nice push on the left side of the offensive front.
8 carries for 43 yards for the junior from Fresno, California. Stetson threw that wide of Kearis Jackson, 3rd down. Really the first bad ball we've seen from him today.
He had the one overthrow, right, on the first possession. You see that? That'll happen on a deep ball, but that one, just an errant pass. You could see him afterwards. Looking over to the sidelines, you see Kirby Smart. Mike Bobo also assisting with the offense.
Been terrific on 3rd down last week and today. And on 3rd and 6, he's got all day, and this one's a good one to Kearis inside the 25 with Cortland Marsh all over Jackson. It's a 17-yard pickup.
Once again, we see Kearis Jackson. Now they're targeting him. We saw an earlier target. On the previous one, they were just trying to swing it out there to the edge. Bad ball from Bennett. Nice ball that time down the field. Kearis Jackson right along the boundary. Great body control. Nice focus getting his feet in bounds. We're talking about that offensive line rotation. Warren Erickson, he was in the previous rotation, a starter a season ago, in there at center. Looks like a little bit early along the offensive front.
False start. Offense number 59. 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
Talking earlier in the broadcast inch about Broderick Jones, Warren McClendon, and Amarius Mims, the 3 tackles that are fighting for 2 starting spots that will probably materialize in the weeks to come.
Yeah, man, you can tell they're just trying to figure it out. Who's going to get the most reps? I don't know that there's a big drop-off when you put any one of those guys in, but they're definitely trying to keep them all active and engaged in the offense.
Jones on the left, Mims on the right. Bennett across the middle, wide open to his big tight end target. Down to the 1 goes Bowers. 27 more for the man that was the best freshman in America last year.
Nobody saw him coming a year ago. He's got a target on his back this year.
Watch McIntosh coming. Samford was ready for it. Good tackle by Hardiman and Emmanuel Flowers.
Great job right there on the edge. We've seen Samford a couple of times get in the red zone. They've been able to bow their necks defensively. They've made it difficult for Georgia, forcing those couple of field goals.
Rosemy, Jack Saint, and McConkey are at the top of your screen. That's Bowers and Washington on the right side of the line with McIntosh behind Bennett. And Kenny walks in. You know, since you realize Georgia's playing an FCS opponent today, they're 6 for 6 scoring today on all 6 possessions, but they did this against Oregon last week.
Right, yeah, it was amazing. The coaches talked about it. They just felt like there was very little to no pushback, resistance in that football game. Carved right through the Ducks. Haven't been as efficient, right? They've scored on their possessions. They get in the red zone. They've kicked some field goals. It's a nice look here. Pull the guard all the way across, a play action, not an RPO. Intended to get the ball downfield, and you sneak Bowers out. He was attached at the end of the line of scrimmage. We talked about how much he's done. Take Ratledge in there at right guard. They only got a couple snaps out of him a season ago. He's healthy now. And a clean walk into the end zone for your running back, Kenny McIntosh.
This guy's milking every moment in Athens right now. Chance he might be #1 in the country in the Associated Press and Coaches Poll by the time we get to Monday. Alabama fought for their lives for 60 minutes in Austin today, outlasting old offensive coordinator Steve Sarkisian in Texas 20-19.
Wherever fun happens, Academy Sports and Outdoors is there.
We have a chance today to salute some great dogs from the past in the second half, so I hope you stay tuned for that. And we'll continue also to look at the potential of some of these great players at the next level. As Jim Nagy, the Reese's Senior Bowl director, is available to us each week, does such a great job. And Josh Brooks is going to hang out with us in the second half, the athletic director here.
Interested to get his perspective on That's some of the things that have happened in college football. As you see, Samford's running the football. They're wanting to end the half. Georgia calls a timeout. See if they can get a little bit more offensive work here in the first 2 quarters. Pretty efficient. You know, we talk about it. So far, Georgia with 16 first downs. Samford with just the 1. Obviously, a couple of short fields, turnovers. Michael Hyers, who played really well week 1. They got a top 10 victory over Kennesaw State in their opener, but it has been very difficult, and as any would anticipate, versus this defense, regardless of the new faces.
Jay Stanton dives ahead for a few more. He has not made it to the first down, so Georgia will call another timeout with 44 seconds to go.
It'll be 30 seconds.
That's the Redcoat Marching Band decked out today. It is a bit cooler, not cool.
No, but you're right.
But a bit cooler.
Yeah, we're a month early, at least, weather-wise. I mean, this is a great day for football. It really is. To be week 2 of the season, you should have been sweating through your socks by now. But instead, it's almost pleasant.
We did that in Oxford last week.
Yes, we did.
Evidently, everybody was doing that in Austin, Texas today.
When I was running those stadiums to get back up here, I would probably have needed an IV bag. It was like it was last week.
Alyssa never likes hearing us talk about the weather since she's always in the elements down there. Let's see if Hyers, nope, nowhere close. Nolan Smith and friends came in there to prevent the first down. Georgia's going to call their last timeout.
Yeah. Timeout. Georgia.
Now, Chris Hatcher did text his buddy Kirby Smart this week and say, take it easy now, fella.
I haven't seen a lot of blitzing. I mean, it's some, right? Nolan Smith does a good job playing that block, squeezes down inside, comes off on that quarterback. Hyers pulls it. To rethink that strategy versus this defense. Kirby definitely not taking it easy on Hatch, right? Trying to squeeze in one more shot at his end zone.
Maybe he will in the second half, but he's playing to his own standard. Yeah,
that's right.
Wants to see what his team can do in a hurry-up situation. As he was telling Alyssa before the game, if we're not going to get adversity from the other team, we need to create our own throughout the football game. So see if Georgia can tack on a few more points with no timeouts and 38 seconds left. Orsolano wants this one to the sideline. McConkey lets it go, Mr. Stinchcomb.
Well, you know, there's a lot of great places to go in the Southeastern Conference when you're in these respective towns. So SEC Eats. Last night, we went to one of the finest restaurants in Athens, Georgia, a staple, the Last Resort Grill. And I will tell you, it's not just great food that you get during the main course.
At the 25-yard line. And Stetson is coming out at least for the first drive of the third quarter.
It was interesting in talking to the coaches last week. You know, as quickly as the game got out of hand, they had intentions of playing at least 3 quarterbacks. Oregon ended up going on a long drive there in the second half and stifled that opportunity. You only saw Bennett and Beck. Bennett able to come out here and open up the second half of this game.
Want to keep him fresh. You got the Gamecocks up in Columbia next week. Another home game against Kent State before the schedule starts to get more challenging in October. Kendall Milton around the left side is past the 35 and past the 40. Ty Hardiman pushes him out, but 16 more for Mr. Milton.
That's the best run of the day for Georgia. Coming in that's the longest run of the season, even.
Haven't really needed a long run yet, as they've just thrown the football all over the lot the first 6 quarters of the year. But Kirby Smart said, let's make it a point to establish that ground game today. And I think that's clearly an emphasis here on this drive. Maybe that's part of the reason, since the starters are still in, is to establish that running game throughout this possession.
I think there's no question. You go out there, turn it into a 9-on-7 inside run drill, do it versus an opponent, see if you can execute when it matters. Albeit when you're in control of a football game, it's always different when the scoreboard's lit up. You cannot simulate it in practice.
Dejon Edwards is in as Milton goes out. Dejon gets the first down. I found it humorous that we did Georgia's playing at South Carolina next week. We did that game in Columbia 2 years ago. Dejon was the 5th string tailback that day. Completely ended the game. The last 9 minutes of the game, ran for over 100 yards. This guy's been waiting his turn. He advanced from 5th string to 3rd string, but he's going to get plenty of reps in 2022. Stands next to Bennett as Stetson surveys the field. Wide open is Darnell Washington. Climbs the ladder down to the 20-yard line. One of the biggest men in all of football, 28 yards.
Downfield throw for Big Darnell. Ends up catching really the back half of that football with those big old mitts of his. He's done a day's work. We talked about him numerous times in the first half blocking.
He looks like he should be in a science fiction movie.
Yeah, when he's out there running, it looks like you should be looking for like a jockey somewhere looking for his horse.
Supposed to do that when you're this big. McConkey catches it before it hits the grass. And Hardiman makes the tackle down at the 15-yard line.
You open up the possession, got to tenderize the defense. A couple of runs, big long run to open it up. And then you take a shot downfield. So many weapons in this Georgia offense. Perhaps that might be the biggest challenge.
Previous play is under video review.
Wondered if maybe that ball hit some of this beautiful Georgia grass. We'll take a look. Ron Leatherwood and Randy Watkins are here today. Wayne Winkler will get a look into that camera too. What did you see here, Stench?
Yeah, it looked awful low. The question is, I don't know if we can quite tell from that look. I can't tell if it skipped off the turf or not. I don't know. To me, it looks like McConkey caught the front
After video
nose
review,
of
the
that ball.
pass is incomplete.
Oh, okay.
It'll be second down at the 20-yard line.
Yeah, so I'm 0 for 1 this year. Fans don't like it.
We should get a booth cam of your facial expression when I say, what did you see there,
Yeah.
Snitch?
Tell you what, it doesn't matter. Actually, it does matter, because whatever it is that I'm going to say, 100% of the time, it will be something other than that.
Oh, the old kiss of death. Dawgs back in the red zone on 2nd and 10. Washington, at least for the moment, lined up next to Bennett. With Jackson in motion. McIntosh running into his own guys, gets a yard.
Samford's had some good run defense downs. I got to tell you, big Seth Simmer, that guy's done a good job in the middle. He's had a couple of nice reps, collapsing the pocket, playing blocks, and getting down the line of scrimmage. See him on the backside, Tate Ratledge.
He just beat
Can't
him
get
there.
inside. Yeah.
Simmer's a transfer from Dartmouth, but originally from Powder Springs, Georgia, so you know he's excited to be back in his home state. 3rd and 9 for Stetson Bennett. All day. Nothing open and has to take the sack. Nathan East, all SoCon first teamer, sacks him for a loss of 17.
You know, and East was just sitting there kind of green dog. He was up in the line of scrimmage, and the green dog is if you see somebody release, somebody pick him up in coverage. If you see the quarterback pull it down, then you trigger and blitz. That's ultimately what happened. Looked like he had Kyrus Jackson over the middle.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just it. The impact football has on the entire university from admissions, and obviously we've had a great run with under President Moore's leadership with the enrollment going up and the standards are going up, but football has an impact on it as well, and hopefully that championship mentality will bleed over in all programs in athletics.
I know that's what you'd like to see. Hires almost had it picked off. Stackhouse is in the backfield, and that's big Malachi Starks, the true freshman who was so good last week. Tell us how that maybe has impacted all of the other athletic programs.
Yeah, well, it all starts in recruiting, and now when we have days like this and the student section's full, we've got recruits from all other sports here visiting, so they see that energy, they see that passion, especially from the student base, so it helps us in recruiting across the board.
You know, you look at winning the championship last year under the current college football playoff format, but now there's a commitment to expanding that. What are your thoughts on the impact that expansion will have on the game?
Yeah, so there's a lot of nuts and bolts to get into of how that's going to impact the season, right? Because now it could be an even longer season. You could have a first-round game at home. There's a lot to unpack. I'm all for expansion of getting more teams opportunities, making more games exciting later in the year, but there's a lot of details we've got to get into from the logistics of how you're going to pull that off, that number of games late in the year.
It's an excellent point. There's been speculation that maybe we could see that newly expanded playoff earlier than 2026.
I think I just heard him yell a couple of boxes down.
Coach is terrific and beloved by all Dogs. 2nd and 7. Ty King makes a catch. It is kind of crazy to think that the last time Georgia played a home game as a national champion was in 1981. And you think back after they won that 1980 title, you got Herschel coming back as a sophomore. You're thinking in 81 and in 82, they're going to have a real chance to win another national championship in one of those years. Came so close, it just didn't materialize. There's no doubt Kirby Smart's teams in these years to come are going to have plenty of chances as well.
No question. Well, we were on I was on earlier with the Bulldog Radio Network. Lauren Smith was asking about that, how hard it is to repeat, and it is incredibly hard. What you just noted, those teams had an opportunity to do it.
Deep pass by Quincy Critton, and the new quarterback is caught by Ty King as he threw it over the freshman Dalen Everett. 36 yards.
How about this ball from Critton? Drops it right in. You see, he can get his head around to play the ball in the air and tries to play the ball through his arms. Look, that ball almost squeaks out. Instead, Ty King does a great job maintaining possession.
Best field position of the day for Samford. And Crittenden will take off, but a flag is in.
False start. Offense, number 24. 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
Tailback Giles. Chaz Chambliss coming off the field. Special teamer to big-time defensive contributor. The entire defensive staff has been raving about the way he's been performing since camp started in August.
Defensive coordinator Glenn Schumann was talking about him a lot in our meeting yesterday about just how good he is, especially in run game. Really rugged player.
Britton's in trouble. Keeps the play alive, but incomplete, looking for King. Pressure on the play by Bear Alexander, another true freshman.
That was an interesting conversation with Coach Schumann yesterday. He's talking about what they look for in linebackers. He's coached some great ones here at Georgia as the linebacker coach, now coordinator. And he was saying how, look, you got to have a Mike linebacker, an inside linebacker mindset, but a tool set of like an edge player, an outside linebacker. If you look at those players, that's exactly how they play.
2nd and 15, no chance there. As it's Michael Williams, freshman from Columbus, in the backfield against the Ducks last week. Same story in week 2.
Watch him work the twist. It's an end tackle. So the tackle, the defensive tackle, works upfield first, picks the guard and tackle, and allows Michael Williams to slice in there. As you mentioned earlier, 6'5", 265. He reminds you of somebody.
Well, look, Trayvon Walker was the first pick of the draft, but just size-wise,
sure,
you can't help but say the guy looks like the same kind of football player.
No question.
Crittenden steps into it, and he gets it out there to Kendall Watson to the sideline. Let's make it 4th and maybe a bit more manageable. Tyke Smith in coverage.
Kendall Watson, pretty quiet this afternoon. It's been tough sledding, obviously, offensively. And Tyke playing a lot more in this game, getting some meaningful snaps. A guy they were counting on a year ago, didn't get him because of injury. Trying to work him into that secondary.
Still 7 minutes to go. With a season after Georgia allowed 13 touchdowns, they've allowed 0 in almost 8 quarters of play. Wow, good job there as Porcelato gets it to spin a bit. And Fred Flavors downed it. Kieris Jackson didn't think that any whistle blew, but they are going to call a touchback that he was. His momentum broke the play. All over Athens, Georgia, rightfully so. That 42 team has a plaque on the side of this stadium as well. Beck swings it out there, caught by Muse. Gets up to the 27-yard line. You think of that, Stench, I mean, really for 80-plus years, you've had all-time great players playing for this program.
Yeah, I mean, you look back at some of the Heisman winners, obviously with Frank Sinkwich. He was on the same team as Charlie Trippey, arguably one of the greatest college football players ever as well. There have been some fantastic football. You mentioned Fran Tarkenton earlier. Jake Scott. There have been some greats come through this program.
Beck tried to run, and Braden Boyle tracked him down. Last week, because Oregon ran the last 20 plays of the game without scoring, I might add, we didn't get to see Brock Vandegrift. I wonder if there's enough time for that to happen today.
They certainly sounded like they intended for that to be the case. To get him in there and get him some snaps. But with just under 6 minutes to play, it's going to require a Samford stop. Ball out.
Trouble with the snap, and Morizette picks it up, and Georgia's going to be forced to punt. Just the second time today.
Yeah, that was the mesh point between he and Branson Robinson. Got Carson Beck in there, and see him, looks like he was trying to pull it clean. Robinson might have come down on that ball, squeezed it early.
All of those shows are recorded at Matt Stinchcomb's house. Hey, Alyssa, what's happening Wednesday night on our favorite show, Out of Pocket?
Oh, I'm glad you specified that was your favorite show. Yeah, Out of Pocket back, SEC Network, 7 o'clock Eastern. Myself and Andrea Carter for an hour every single Wednesday, catching you up on everything we saw the weekend before in the SEC and looking forward in this week's case to week 3. I have a feeling, guys, we're going to be showing a lot of highlights from this game today. A lot of great athleticism out there by the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah, they look like the cream of the crop in all of college football again in 2022. Crittenden gives himself up at the 31-yard line with Marvin Jones, Xavier Sori, Dalen Everett, and others getting some playing time. Alyssa, what sort of shot do you give the Gamecocks at home in Columbia next Saturday against these guys?
Why would you do this to me? Why would you put me on the spot like this?
It didn't rain. It's been easy today.
Here's the thing. That tends to be a competitive matchup when it begins, right? Both of these teams hate each other. Georgia fans have not forgotten about that game in 2019, but as of late, what did Shane Beamer say last year? They got 105 stars. I don't think that's changed based on the performance against Arkansas today. Maybe we'll have a couple minutes of a good game, but I think Georgia's still far and away from everyone else in the SEC East.
Look,
I'll leave it there.
Alyssa, I know losing by 2 touchdowns to anybody is not a moral victory, but I'm impressed by the way Shane Beamer's team is competing right now. 2 former Kirby Smart assistants squaring off today. You had Shane Beamer and the Gamecocks losing today to Sam Pittman and the Arkansas Razorbacks, and I am blown away by what Pittman has done in Fayetteville.
Yeah, I was about to say, I mean, that might be the contender in the West Division. We thought that coming into the season. Alyssa, I know that we talked about, potential contenders with Alabama in the West, and after today, you have to think maybe the Razorbacks have a shot.
PN App right now, Alyssa. A&M still trailing App State 17-14. Aggies are driving.
Stinch and I were in studio on Tuesday with Roman Harper leading up to the show, watching the things that Jimbo Fisher was saying in his Tuesday press conference, talking about how App State is a really talented team. We saw him put 60 on North Carolina last week, so I know one person's not surprised by this. It might be Jimbo Fisher. He's been saying it all week.
There's Vandegrift, who threw a good ball, but it goes through Dylan Bell's hands. The Aggies, of course, are ranked 6th in the country. Notre Dame losing today. Alabama, I would think, is going to fall below the Dogs in next week's top 10.
How about Kentucky, Florida tonight, guys?
Yeah, that should be a good one. That's on ESPN at the top of the hour. But Chris Rodriguez is not playing tonight, tailback for the Cats. Vandegrift takes off.
Ooh.
Just
physical
short.
Guy. They talked about him in the meetings the other day. Physical guy, a runner. Still don't like seeing him take that shot at the end of the run. And a stop for the Samford defense. Yeah, tonight, coming into the season, you look at Kentucky and Florida, and Florida's somewhat of an unknown. A lot of hope around Anthony Richardson. They get that huge victory over Utah. So now you're wondering what many would have thought, me included, you'd be 0-1. And now with no Chris Rodriguez and the way Kentucky struggled on the line of scrimmage last week, playing on the road, at night, in the swamp, you got to like the Gators. I think they start the season 2-0.
That atmosphere in the swamp last Saturday night was electric. The Gators beat the Utes.
Taylor, I want to get your thoughts on this. I asked Stinch earlier in the week, when it comes to this Florida-Kentucky game, who's this bigger for? Billy Napier starting his career at Florida 2-0, or Mark Stoops being able to beat a Florida team in back-to-back seasons for the first time in decades?
I'm going to go latter. I'm going to say, as we're looking at the graphic right now, Alyssa, since the Fran Kersey era, no Kentucky team has been able to win 2 in a row against the Gators. Coach Stoops can get off to a hot start. Will Levis can run hot and cold, the quarterback of the Cats. If he can win that tonight, they could maybe be the top contender with Georgia course, that could be, I think that might be Georgia's toughest matchup all year when they play Kentucky late in the season.
That's if they get Chris Rodriguez back and figure out a way to run the football. You know, right now, you think about it, in their opener, they ran the ball for 50 yards. That's less than what they ran for versus that Georgia defense a season ago. They've got some serious issues along their line of scrimmage that I don't think anybody anticipated they'd have.
Again, that game on ESPN. Over on ESPN2, App State still leads A&M. Under 3 minutes to go, and App State has the ball. And Tennessee's up 4 on Pitt on ABC. Just barely into the fourth quarter there. DeAndre Williams running up to the 34-yard line.
DeAndre Williams, the ball carrier.
Excited to be back covering SEC football again this season. Watching all these storylines unfold. We just showed E.J. Lightsey, the freshman from Fitzgerald, Georgia. He was on the tackle on that last play, another true freshman. This could be the last play of the game. See what Chris Hatcher wants to do. And how about that